Hi, thanks for watching. Today I'm going to dive into a client account where we used to send to a big segment, about 60,000 people. That was most of their subscribers. And we were getting low click rates with a high sending frequency. So we were sending 3 times per week and getting very low click rates and low sales. And it was an issue. We wanted to send 3 campaigns per week. The client wanted to send 3 campaigns per week, but we had this engagement problem and it was leading to low sales. And so what we did is we took this counterintuitive approach of sending to fewer people, and I want to show you the results of that and how surprisingly that generated not only much better engagement, but also more sales. But I want to show you a couple of things before we get into it. What I compared was February, the whole month of February 2024. So you can see the campaign results here. This is a good click rate. We're getting decent sales with some spikes here and some, bottoms here. Overall, this is what it looks like. Brief overview, and then we're comparing it to October of 2023, which is when we decided roughly to take a new approach. And I didn't want to compare it to November or December because um, those are kind of, Black Friday crazy months. Um, and I also didn't want it to I didn't want to compare it to last year because the list was much smaller last year, so it wouldn't have been a fair comparison. So I think October versus February is a pretty good. We're comparing apples to apples, and that's really important. Um, but yeah, so October, as you can see, much lower click rate on average, and also we can see there are some sales, but we don't see these spikes, and we don't see a lot above 2000. There's not a lot of them. So that's kind of the basic setup. And I compiled all the results here. These are the results of this experiment. First off, recipients per campaign. I estimated this value, but this is a good estimate. The list hasn't grown a lot in that time. So about 60,000 in October, and then about 27,000, that's per campaign on average in February. So the reason this has shrunk so much is because we decided to create a much smaller sending segment. So what did we do? As you can see here, as you can see here in October, we were sending to a segment called Engaged 180 Days. And that segment is built the following way. Either someone's opened an email or they have clicked an email in the last 180 days. So the big issue with that, we could discuss sending windows, shortening it to 120 or 90 days, but we've actually done that and that didn't make a huge difference. So what could be the issue with this sending segment? And after experimenting, we found out that it was very closely linked to Apple Privacy Opens. So if you don't know, Apple iOS 15, when it came out, was a big change for email marketing because it basically, I'm not going to go too deep into it to not make it too long, but basically it made open rates much, much more unreliable. Klaviyo records a bunch of open events that don't happen. And obviously, these people are never going to click because they didn't open the email. So these are not really engaged people, but Klaviyo thinks they're engaged. So what we did in this segmentation method is just remove all Apple privacy opens. So anyone who set their privacy settings in Apple to don't track my data basically would be excluded from these campaigns. Um, that's what this Apple privacy opens equals false means. And as you can see, this is the only change we made. We started in January with a smaller sending segment, but in February we're pretty much only sending to the 180-day segment. And as you can see, with the same time frame, we're getting a much higher click rate on average. So after we decided that we were going to use this different sending segment, we basically just ran with it for a few months. And January was kind of the setup to that, finding the right time frame. So we're in February now. So as you can see, um, we've reduced our recipients here by about 54%. And why do you care? Aside from deliverability, which is a main point, you can also save on your Klaviyo bill. As you know, Klaviyo bills, or any email marketing platform will bill you based on how many users you have. And so if you basically get rid of the 55% here that don't engage anyway, or that are false engagements, then you can remove these people from your billing. So this is very powerful already, just this first line. But of course, we also want the emails to result in sales. We don't want to just save cost and then make less money. That doesn't make any sense. So let's have a look at the sales. With 15 versus 13 campaigns per month, total revenue here was 15,600, and total revenue in February was 22,700. So that's 45% more in February than in October, even though we sent two campaigns less. And on average per campaign, just to make up for that difference, that's about $750 less per campaign that we sent in October versus February, even though we've removed 55% of the total recipients. So that's a really powerful stat. That means that even though we're sending to fewer people, we're making more sales. And this is really, really important. And a lot of people that I talk to struggle to take that step because they feel like they're going to lose a lot of money by not sending to all these subscribers. But the really important concept to understand here is that these subscribers are a false illusion of a valuable asset, right? Because you've tested them and you've determined statistically that these subscribers are not engaging, so they're actually not valuable. And on the contrary, they're dragging down your deliverability, they're inflating your costs, and so you're really better off in every regard removing people that are not engaging with your emails. They are not an asset; they're just a liability, and you don't want you don't want them in your list, and that's what this data is showing. Because with less than half of the sending data of the recipients, we are getting 70% more per campaign we're sending. And then, of course, you don't have to get rid of subscribers completely. You can just park them in a segment and then reuse them or re-engagement around Black Friday or something like that. But even then, I haven't seen that a lot, that these segments are very profitable. So you're better off not paying for them, not having to send to them all the time and destroying your deliverability with people that are actually interested and want to see your email. You're better off just removing them and making more money off of the smaller segment that you have. So it's extremely powerful. And then just to re-enhance the deliverability boost, or the engagement boost, but engagement is really how we measure both deliverability and relevance of our content. And relevance of our content from a money standpoint is very important because, like I said, email providers judge your email based on how customers interact with them. So if you make relevant emails that customers interact with a lot, then you're going to go into the inbox versus promotions and you're going to make more money. Even though we sent fewer campaigns, a lot more clicks, 50% more clicks in February versus October. And that's also counterintuitive, right? Not only did we make more sales, but we also got a lot more clicks. And if you look at it in terms of click rate, it's almost 4 times higher. Revenue per recipient went up by 3 as well. Um, and so you can see that basically means that you're utilizing your assets better, right? For every recipient, which you have to pay for every single one of them, for every recipient, you're making 6 cents versus 2. So I'm not saying this is going to work every time, but in the vast, vast majority of instances where I've implemented this into client accounts, it has had it's been very successful. And one reason why it's also such a great strategy is because it's so simple. As you saw, all I did was just create one simple segment, and this client, they were sending some emails to a lot of different segments, and I see that a lot. I'm sure some of you are doing that, um, and sending to 10 different segments. And so every time you create a campaign, you have to figure out who you're going to send it to. And in this instance, Klaviyo does it for you. They find the subscribers. You just have to set up the segment once and make sure that it's working. And then once it is, then you can use it every single time. So here it is. I've written down all the benefits of engagement based segmentation, and I hope this helps. I hope you can implement this in your business and see a difference in your bottom line and your engagement, um, and hopefully see some decrease in spam rate and bounce rate, because that's going to happen too. Let me know in the comments if you have any more questions, and feel free to subscribe here if you want to see more content like this where I dive really deep into accounts.